got a lot of flowers growing. My wife has been busy working in the flower garden while I've been working in the vegetable garden. And so we've got some interesting things happening, and I'm excited to give you an update this week. So thank you for checking it out. So my big project was to fix this raised bed with all these weeds growing in it. So I raised it up an extra level to make it deeper and filled it in with some dirt, and then put mulch on top of it, because you'll notice that the side with the onions, I had put mulch on that and didn't have any problems with weeds growing in that. So I thought, well, let me put mulch on top of the other half as well, and then when I plant in that, I won't have to have weeds growing in it. Also, I wanted to get rid of the weeds growing around the outside edge of the bed, and so I ripped those out, put down newspaper, and fill that all in with mulch as well. And I'm hoping that keeps it neat and tidy so that we don't have weeds growing in it. Also, I added this new kind of plastic fencing, which will help keep the chickens from getting in there and messing things up, as well as keeping rabbits out. So I like the way it looks. Another thing I wanted to do was build some tomato cages. I had some plans for that. Ultimately, I wanted to have these cages around these circular planters, because I wanted to plant tomatoes and cucumbers in there and let them grow up it. Plus, the cages protect the plants from chickens and rabbits and all that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd just go out and buy some more of this fencing material that these cages are built of, but I can't find anything except for humongous rolls that's going to cost $150, and I don't need that much. And so after looking and looking and looking for weeks, I couldn't find any, so I just decided I would build my own cages out of some scrap wood that I have. Put this fencing around the bottom to protect them from rabbits and dogs and cats and chickens that like to get in there and mess everything up. So we'll see how that works. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about faith and how faith and gardening go hand in hand. I saw a movie several years ago. It's a great movie if you want to watch it sometime. It's called Faith Like Potatoes. And one of the things that the man in the story talks about is how growing potatoes requires you to have an extra dose of faith. And this year, for the very first time ever, I'm planting potatoes myself, and I can definitely understand what he was saying. So anytime you plant something, there's a certain amount of faith that's involved. You're going to do everything you can to make it grow, but then you have to have faith. With potatoes, that's just even, I don't know, I found that to be even more true. Because with potatoes, at least in my case, I planted them in buckets, and they're way down deep underneath the dirt. You can't see them. You plant them in there. You know that it's possible that they don't get enough water, or it may be possible that they get too much water and they rot under the ground, and you never know it until they just never ever come up. Or maybe the dirt is too compact and the potatoes can't get through the dirt. All of those things are up in the air. You plant those potatoes and you say your prayers and you wait and you wait. In my case, it was about 3 weeks. You couldn't tell anything. You know, all you would see is a bucket of dirt. You couldn't tell if anything was happening whatsoever. Are the potatoes growing or are they not? And you just don't know. All you can do is have faith that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it was such a joyous thing for me this month when I saw those first potato leaves pop through the surface of that dirt, because I knew, yes, the potatoes did grow. They were doing what they were supposed to do. I don't know if I'm going to get to harvest potatoes. I still need to have a lot of faith, because there's still a lot of time ahead of me before those potatoes are finished. But my hope is that we will have potatoes. And I'm going to do everything I can to make the potatoes harvest well, grow well, and then give a good harvest. But ultimately, it's not up to me. I can only do so much, and then it's up to God to make those potatoes multiply and bring a good harvest. And so until then, you really, with a tomato plant, you can see the tomatoes and what is happening. You see the flowers blooming and the bees buzzing, and you see the flowers beginning to turn into tomatoes, and you can see the tomatoes swelling and changing colors, and you just sort of know, you have a good idea that the tomatoes are either going to be good or they're going to be bad or whatever. They're going to be big, they're going to be small. But with potatoes, you just don't know. It's all hidden. It's all happening underground. And it's not until the day that you actually harvest those potatoes if you know whether it all worked or not. And so all you can do is have faith. And much of life is like that too. You have some control over the things that happen in life. You can get a good education. You can be a good person. You can meet people and make connections and do those kinds of things. And you can work towards goals, and you can be disciplined. There's a lot of things that you can do that would nurture success in life. But also, there's just a lot of things that are out of your hands that you just don't have control over. And so you have to have a lot of faith. You have to have a lot of faith that God is working behind the scenes to make things happen on your behalf, and that maybe things will happen the way you expected them to. Maybe God has a bigger, better, different plan than what you expected. And so you have to have a lot of faith, because a lot of those things are happening behind the scenes and you never really see what's happening. So faith gives me a lot of hope as I go through life, because I know I'm not on my own. I know that God is there with me, and He's working alongside me. He's working, He cares about me, and He cares about my life, and He wants what's best for me. And my faith in Him and His desire for my life to be good gives me a lot of hope while I'm waiting for things to happen. And ultimately, in my faith, in my trust in Jesus Christ, I also understand that the fruit that I receive in this life, the good things, the bad things, whatever I experience in this life, is not all there is to it. There are a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. There are a lot of things that may not come to fruition until after this life, what we call eternity. So one day, I'm going to come face to face with God. I'm going to take my last breath on this earth, and I'll meet Him. And I will find out then what it was all about. So many of the questions that I had that went unanswered in this life will be answered then. But until then, it's all hidden. And so I just have to have faith. I have to have faith in something bigger than myself, because I'm not big enough to control it all. So it's kind of like growing potatoes, but it's so much more important. Some interesting things. My hay bales have some problems. Some of them are holding up pretty good. Others are having these problems where they're splitting and letting the dirt sort of seep out. So I don't know, not all of them are doing that, but some of them are doing that. And I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. Lots of radish coming in, and hopefully those will be ready to harvest maybe even this week. I've been keeping an eye on them, and they're starting to grow radishes, but they're still kind of small. Snow peas, I built a trellis for them so they can be trained on those strings to grow up that. Over here is kind of the big project that I did this weekend. Got onions growing here, but then on the other side we had some really bad weeds. Weeds had just taken over that side of the bed. It's amazing how that worked, because on the side with the onions where I put down mulch, hardly had any weeds come up. On the other side that was unprotected from mulch, it just got overrun with weeds.